In a small, dimly lit gym in Hong Kong, a man stepped forward, a renowned karate master, known for his speed and ferocity. The room held its breath. 9 seconds later, the encounter was over. Not with a yell, not with a spectacle, but with a quiet inevitability. The challenger, once confident, stood still, unspoken acknowledgement in his eyes. Everyone present realized something had changed, something permanent. But how it happened remained almost invisible, witnessed only in subtle movements and the sudden stillness that followed. The gym itself was unremarkable at first glance. A low ceiling, fluorescent lights that flickered intermittently, and wooden floors worn smooth by years of practice. Yet, for those who knew its history, it carried a weight far beyond its modest appearance. The walls were lined with photographs of champions, inked certificates of mastery, and the faint echoes of past encounters. Some spoken of openly, others only whispered among students. Every scuff on the floor, every dented post, bore witness to decades of discipline. Bruce Lee entered quietly, his presence measured. He did not announce himself with fanfare, nor did he seek attention. His eyes scanned the space with the careful precision of someone cataloging the environment, noting angles, distances, and the rhythm of movement around him. He moved with the economy of effort, light on his feet, a quiet observer in a room full of expectation. Those present sensed a subtle shift. The gym, which had long been a stage for demonstrations of strength and speed, now felt like a chamber of anticipation. Not because Bruce had spoken, but because the room seemed to recognize an authority that required no declaration. The usual sounds, the shuffle of feet, the tap of practice pads, the murmurs of students, fell into a muted rhythm. It was here, in this ordinary yet storied space, that the first impressions of inevitability took root. The gym's reputation as a proving ground for skill was about to intersect with a presence that carried both history and quiet mastery. The observers, experienced martial artists themselves, felt the tension of possibility. They did not yet know how, but something was about to unfold that would redefine what they thought they understood about combat, control, and presence. And yet, for all the expectation, there was no rush. Time seemed to stretch in the stillness. Every eye was on him, not because he demanded it, but because the space itself acknowledged that what was about to occur was not ordinary. The tension in the gym shifted the moment the challenger stepped forward. He was a local karate master, widely respected, his reputation built on victories in both formal tournaments and street demonstrations. His movements were deliberate, confident, a visible assertion of authority within the space he knew intimately. To the untrained eye, he appeared unshakable, the embodiment of skill honed over years of practice. Bruce observed him without expression, his posture relaxed but alert. There was no immediate reaction, no preparation of a counterstrike. Instead, his attention seemed to measure the room as a whole. The distance between the fighters, the position of spectators, the subtle sway of the floor beneath their feet. Every detail was accounted for, every motion predicted, without a word spoken. The karate master spoke first. Not loudly, not with anger, but with clear, measured authority. He issued the challenge. The words themselves were simple, an invitation to test skill, to assert dominance. But the effect on the room was profound. Observers instinctively leaned forward, drawn into the gravity of the moment. Respect and rivalry coexisted in the same breath. The air was heavy with unspoken acknowledgement that what was about to occur mattered. For Bruce, the challenge was not a provocation but an opportunity for demonstration. His response came not in words, but in stance, in the subtle adjustment of weight and balance, in the quiet presence that demanded recognition. The room registered this immediately. There was no arrogance, only control. No posturing, only precision. The contrast between them was stark. The karate master projected his authority outward, through his history, his achievements, and the visible confidence of his body. Bruce projected his inward, through observation, timing, and unspoken anticipation. The result was a tension that was both palpable and silent, a weight pressing down on the spectators, the kind that precedes an event whose outcome feels inevitable even before it begins. And then the silence settled fully. Words ceased, gestures paused. Only presence remained. In that quiet, the room understood something critical. This would not be a contest of noise or force, but of mastery and control, revealed in subtlety, almost invisible to the untrained eye. As word of the challenge spread, the gym spectators gathered closer. Not all were students of Bruce or the karate master, yet all were drawn by the gravity of the confrontation. There were no cheers, no chants, just the quiet murmur of anticipation, like the shifting of wind before a storm. Every footstep, every shuffle of clothing, seemed amplified in the stillness of the room. Observers instinctively divided themselves into groups. Some leaned toward the karate master, aware of his reputation and expecting a demonstration of speed and precision. Others, less vocal but equally attentive, recognized Bruce's presence as something distinct, an authority that needed no introduction. The room, normally a space for training and friendly sparring, had become a stage for something rare, the observation of mastery itself. Conversations dwindled. Eyes shifted constantly, tracking the subtle movements of both men. Even the most experienced martial artists in the room noted the tension building not in volume or aggression, but in anticipation of what might unfold. There was a quiet pressure, a collective awareness that every motion, every decision, carried weight. The air was thick with expectation, yet disciplined restraint governed every spectator. No one acted rashly. No one spoke unnecessarily. The karate master adjusted his stance repeatedly, small micro-movements revealing readiness, control, and a familiarity with confrontation. Bruce remained still, almost statuesque, yet the room could sense a latent energy in the way he breathed, in the alignment of his body. The tension was not chaotic. It was structured, measured, and precise. Every second of waiting intensified the effect. The observers felt it in their own muscles, the tightening of shoulders, the narrowing of focus, the quiet, almost involuntary acknowledgement that what was about to happen would defy ordinary expectation. It was a tension that did not demand noise. Its presence alone was enough to hold the room in suspended attention. And then, just before the first movement, a subtle shift occurred. The karate master's confident posture, so steady moments before, tightened ever so slightly. Bruce, in contrast, remained calm, a still point in the center of an environment suddenly charged. The room, fully aware, leaned into the inevitability of the moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, Bruce moved. It was not a sudden motion, nor a display of force. Each step, each adjustment of weight was deliberate, economical, efficient, and precise. The room barely registered the initial movements, though every experienced observer understood that something extraordinary was unfolding. The karate master responded instinctively, launching into what would have been a conventional series of strikes. Speed, power, and technique all displayed as expected. But Bruce did not counter with resistance or aggression. Instead, he guided the energy with minimal motion, redirecting force rather than confronting it head-on. The exchange lasted only 9 seconds, yet in that span, the rhythm, balance, and intent of both men were revealed completely. It was in the subtle details that mastery became visible. The slight shift of Bruce's weight, the angle of his hand, the timing of his eye contact, all communicated authority without words. There were no exaggerated gestures, no dramatic pauses, no audible impact. Yet the effect was undeniable. The karate master, accustomed to asserting dominance through action, found himself subtly, almost invisibly, outmaneuvered. not through strength or speed, but through control, anticipation, and restraint. Spectators noticed the shift immediately. It was not loud or violent. It was psychological, almost imperceptible. The karate master's posture faltered for a fraction of a second. His confidence wavered, and in that brief instant, the inevitability of the outcome became clear. Bruce's movements were almost invisible, yet they conveyed finality. The room, which had been taut with expectation, exhaled quietly in recognition of what had occurred. No one spoke. The silence that followed carried more weight than any strike could have. It was a testament not to victory or defeat, but to understanding, the subtle, quiet force of mastery over mere effort. The demonstration, though brief, left an imprint on everyone present. The lesson was clear. True skill does not announce itself. It reveals itself in the space between intention and action. And just like that, the 9 seconds ended. The room remained still. The karate master paused, absorbing a truth that could not be articulated, only felt. Bruce did not raise his voice, did not gesture triumphantly. He simply stood, calm, controlled, and aware, leaving the echoes of mastery suspended in the air. In the moments following the 9-second demonstration, the karate master remained still. His body, trained for reaction, seemed almost frozen, not by fear, but by comprehension. The realization came slowly, imperceptibly at first. The authority he had expected to confront was not reliant on force or spectacle. Every assumption he had carried into the gym was quietly undone. Witnesses described it as a subtle shift. The master's breathing, once measured and confident, became slightly irregular. His shoulders, previously squared, sagged fractionally. The focus in his eyes wavered, not because he had been physically bested, but because he had encountered a level of mastery that could not be countered with familiar strategies. There was no humiliation, only recognition. Around the gym, observers felt it as well. The tension that had built so deliberately transformed into a quiet awe. The room had been prepared for a display of skill. Instead, they had witnessed an almost imperceptible demonstration of understanding. Bruce's efficiency, restraint, and timing left no room for ego, no opening for challenge. The karate master's collapse was psychological, internal, but its effect radiated outward. It was in this silence that lessons were most sharply observed. The power of anticipation, the economy of motion, the quiet command of space. All became visible not through strikes, but through the absence of them. The karate master stepped back, and with a small nod, almost involuntary, acknowledged what had occurred. His authority had not been erased. It had been recontextualized, reframed by an encounter defined by subtlety rather than confrontation. The observers, trained martial artists themselves, understood immediately that the event would linger far beyond the room. This was not a fleeting moment of victory, nor a spectacle to be retold with excitement. It was a demonstration of dominance through comprehension, of quiet mastery over expectation, and of the profound impact subtlety can have on even the most confident practitioner. In that silence, the room absorbed the lesson fully. Words were unnecessary. Motion had spoken, authority had revealed itself, and understanding had taken root. The karate master, once poised to assert, now existed in quiet reflection. His certainty reshaped by 9 seconds of controlled observation and minimal action. Years later, the gym remained much the same: worn floors, flickering lights, walls lined with photographs of champions. But the story of that brief encounter endured far beyond its physical space. Martial artists who had witnessed it retold the moment not with excitement, but with quiet reverence. The 9 seconds had become less about a fight and more about understanding. The karate master, once known primarily for his speed and aggression, carried the lesson forward in every interaction afterward. His approach to training shifted subtly. Technique over force, observation over impulse, awareness over pride. These principles, impressed upon him by an encounter so fleeting, influenced his students and colleagues for years to come. Those who trained under him noticed the change, a focus on efficiency, on the economy of movement, on restraint as a form of authority. For Bruce Lee, the incident became another quiet proof of a principle he had long lived. Mastery is measured not in confrontation, but in clarity, presence, and control. He did not publicize the event. He did not dramatize it. Yet its impact was undeniable. The observers carried the lesson into their own practices, recounting the subtlety of the demonstration, the inevitability it conveyed, and the psychological clarity it imposed upon even a formidable opponent. In retrospect, the encounter stands as a study in calm authority. There was no spectacle, no showmanship, no noise. The narrative persists because it reveals something deeper: the long-term power of understanding over aggression, of quiet mastery over exhibition, and of precision over effort. Each retelling emphasizes the same truth: the moment mattered not because of what was done, but because of how it was done. Even decades later, those present remember the silence that followed, the pause in time when control and comprehension overrode expectation. It became legend not through exaggeration, but through authenticity. The story is repeated not for thrills, but as a testament to the enduring strength of quiet mastery, a subtle imprint on history that speaks to all who seek to understand the true nature of authority in combat. And in that quiet reflection, the lesson remains. Not as a moral, not as a mantra, but as a living example. Presence, observation, and restraint can achieve outcomes far beyond mere action. The room, the participants, and all who witnessed it understood this intuitively. The encounter left no fanfare, only a lasting mark on those who were there, and on the generations who would come to hear of it.